When it was first announced, the relativistic heavy ion collider was considered one of the marvels of modern science. The massive machine is used by experienced researchers to analyze ions by smashing them into each other over and over again in an attempt to recreate a model of the Big Bang and study the effects of life just moments after. But the scientific community was, and many still are, in an uproar over the device, terrified that it could backfire if used improperly and create a man-made black hole that would collapse the planet and drain it of all life. While it obviously hasn't happened yet, it has still spurned a number of theories as to how it could be a more dangerous threat to mankind than global warming or any other looming natural disaster. Volcanoes have fascinated mankind for as long as there has been written documentation of our earliest existence. But with their massive size and immense power, it's unsurprising that a volcano could be what leads to the end of the world. Supervolcanoes are volcanoes with a propulsive power of up to 1 million times that of a regular volcano, and an eruption could lead to a blackout over the entire world. It's even possible that one of these supervolcano eruptions is responsible for whittling down the human race in its early stages, and the possibility of an upcoming eruption isn't exactly off the table. There are 4 supervolcanoes in the United States alone, and the one sitting in Yellowstone National Park has been showing signs of build over the past decade. While there's no scientific way to estimate when a volcano will erupt, scientists have taken note of the supervolcano's recent movement and think some sort of eruption, whether using the full extent of the volcano's power or not, could take place within the next 30 to 50 years. In March of 2016, Britain's Economist Intelligence Unit, famous for categorizing the most plausible global risks involving worldwide economies and political parties, found that the possibility of Donald Trump becoming the President of the United States could essentially lead to an economic downturn that would eventually end the world. The report cites that Trump's erratic temperament, self-serving business sense, and general lack of leadership skills would embellish terrorist factions and jihadists, prompting radical attacks all over the world. In turn, Trump's handling of the economy would cut the United States off multiple trade agreements with other nations and stonewall its citizens from the outside world. With the looming possibility of nuclear war, Trump was also deemed the most untrustworthy presidential candidate in regards to having access codes to the United States' massive storage of nuclear weapons. With other world leaders constantly coming out against the idea of President Trump leading the world's greatest superpower, we should probably be more fearful of the possibility of his election than amused. While the future predicted in the Terminator movies is a violent one spurred on by humanity's misuse of technology and experimentation, the reality of how devices could bring an end to mankind is much more peaceful and slightly more disturbing. Futurist Ray Kurzweil has predicted what he calls the Great Singularity, which describes a time in the very near future in which humans become entirely integrated with technology, and more specifically, the internet. As we take further steps into the realms of virtual reality, human beings are more and more driven to the virtual world, filled with infinite possibilities and vast amounts of information. It is not a wild accusation to say that soon, people will be attempting to live their existences entirely on the web, fusing their mentalities into a line of data that could feasibly live forever. So while it isn't an asteroid striking the planet or a plague causing mass casualties, it could be our innate desire to know more and live forever that causes us to leave our humanity behind. The scariest detail of the theory? Kurzweil predicts we could be at that point by 2045. While there is no way to fully realize the tangible possibilities of the next entry, it is worth discussing due to the immense rise in public health documents. Over the past century, mental health experts have shown a massive spike in mental illness all over the planet. While much of this can be attributed to growing populations and lack of proper insight in previous centuries, many psychologists still deem the rise to be much sharper than it should be. Many theories have persisted that a world population in which the mentally ill supersedes that of those who are not mentally ill could lead to catastrophic effects regarding the economic and political states of the world. And while hyperbole is often dangerous, some psychologists have gone on record saying they fear the future due to what they call possible mass insanity. And of course, if that doesn't frighten you, there's always the possibilities of an impending alien attack, falling asteroid, global warming, and nuclear warfare. But there are so many ways the world could end, but hasn't yet, that it's always worth considering that tomorrow will very likely always be there for you. Unless you're too old to care if it isn't.